so you coached me, and then one day you said, hey, do you want to work together? And I said, yeah, sounds great. And then I was in Bangalore. In short, you recruited me through coaching.
I remember coming to the airport with a little sign along with Sami saying, "Welcome to Bangalore." I think it was as simple as
Yeah,
that.
I
You
cannot
did.
believe I got a speeding ticket in Bangalore.
Taking an auto or a cab to my place to take the car to drive like an hour to go run the sessions. That's what I think of when you
And
say,
do you remember how
impressive.
excited I was? Just those big macro goals and targets are not enough. And if we want to shift things in the world, each one of us individually and collectively need to shift the way we operate. We live in extremely individualistic setups, and I think that's why Jigsaw is also so meaningful for me, is that we always push people to collaborate and be stronger together.
I remember we did that young entrepreneur workshop, and the highlight, everybody were asking them, what was your big takeaway? They were just like, the pizza was amazing.
3, 2, 1, yeah! Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined.
And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
Courage is not doing things in the absence of fear. Courage is doing things despite the fear.
Growth comes from consistent action.
And you're realizing, hey, I'm not the only one with these problems.
Okay, welcome everyone to a very special episode of the BYOB Podcast. Today we have a very, very close friend of mine, a long distance friend, as we have decided to call it, a long distance friendship with Kriti Thakur, who is a very close friend and also someone who spent 3.5 years building Jigsaw up from the ground up. So very excited, Kriti, to finally have a conversation with you on the podcast. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. I'm so excited to be here. It's interesting to see the podcast actually take form and run, because when I was with Jigsaw, we thought about it so much, but we never did one. So very excited.
Yeah, this is exciting. This is kind of one of those full circle sort of moments, it feels like, where you were there during the ideation and now you're a guest, which is really cool. I'm very excited for today, especially because we spent the last half an hour dealing with tech issues.
Yeah, that's one of the things, like I said, of being long distance friends, that you have to keep your calm when there are tech issues.
Yes, and you did that much better than me, so thank you. I'm glad we're finally here. So, Kriti, tell me, how's it living in Germany?
It's good. Yeah, Germany is great. It's been a year, I think, and I think I'm finally settling in.
Awesome. What took you to Germany?
Interesting question. Well, I got married and decided to move to the country where the husband lives. And so here I am in Munich.
Got it. And what are you up to right now in Munich, Germany?
Well, I am working at Unternehmertum, which is the entrepreneurship center of the Technical University of Munich. So it's Europe's largest startup ecosystem. And I'm continuing doing what I did at Jigsaw, which is being a facilitator and education designer.
Nice. And how are you enjoying it? How is it different from living in India, working in India? What are the differences?
That my hours are tracked very seriously, and I'm made to take over hours. Very uncomfortable. I don't want to take them. No, it's similar, because I think people in this field, coaches and experts and educators, all vibe at the same level. So it feels like I left Jigsaw and it feels the same. Well, it doesn't feel that different, except because all of us somehow speak the same language, have the same mission, and it's quite the same actually. And it's good, because I really, after Jigsaw, was freelancing, and I did miss having a team quite a bit. So it's good to have a team again and have people who are equally passionate every day with me.
That's awesome. For me, selfishly, I'm really excited that you continue to stay within the realm of the startup space, because I think obviously you can add a lot of value, and that's the space closest to my heart as well. So that's exciting. I guess we might not make this the most linear conversation in the world. So let's go in the time machine all the way back to maybe when we started working together at Jigsaw. What is your memory or recollection of how you started out with Jigsaw? Because I have my version of events, but what's yours?
Oh wow. Well, I remember trying. I knew about what you were doing, and I remember we were in Goa as friends then, and talking about how you were thinking about Jigsaw, and it was so different back then. Um, and at that point, something it was interesting. I was like, okay, well, Rashid's sort of in this design thinking space. That's interesting, and you were also coaching people with career changes then. And I wasn't very sure if I wanted to stay in the career in the social impact space or venture into something else. And so you coached me, and then one day you said, hey, do you want to work together? And I said, yeah, sounds great. And then I was in Bangalore. In short, you recruited me through coaching. That's what
Yeah,
I remember. What's your
I
version?
think no, I think the way you've put it is great. It's so much simpler and clearer, and it might be my greatest coaching win that, or makes me realize the power of coaching. Ooh, I got this person to leave Bombay, jump into Bangalore, and start doing stuff together, which was really exciting. So yeah, I like your version of the story, so we'll stick with it.
But I think when you asked me, the memory I had was I always knew, and I think we also spoke about it when as friends over drinks. I always knew at some point I would work with you. I just always had that feeling, and so it was just, it's just a matter of time. I was like, yeah, you know what? I knew this would happen, so cool. Let's do it.
Oh, nice. Okay. I didn't know that, but that was cool. I, by the way, keep using you as an example for anyone who is like looking to recruit their first team member.
Hmm.
I keep telling people that, and everybody, like, whenever they're talking about their first team member, just like, yeah, we're looking for an intern, right, to start out. And I keep telling them, like, I was on this journey. I was looking for an intern. And then someone told me, keep your peripheral vision open because there might be an opportunity to work with a superstar and you shouldn't put that down. And I have said the same thing and used your example about 40 times in the last year with people looking for it. So, yeah, there might be other people around who have left Bombay for Bangalore or other places to start working at startups of the past year. But yeah, that was yeah, that I've always told people that
Yeah.
it was a game changer for Jigsaw when it came on
It was
board.
my
So
same. It was my same experience. It was. And it was a game changer for me as well. But I think in principle, just so for everybody listening, it's true that when we start, we think we have to start small or we'll be the hero and then we can figure out how to delegate. Well, that's fine. You're right. I mean, sometimes when you meet people, you can't control it. You can't have like a recruitment funnel for the next 3 years. You just meet amazing people who vibe with you and who are invested in you, then just make it happen as opposed to say, oh no, I'm hiring a CTO 2 years later and now it's too early.
yeah,
I think our story helps know that keep your peripheral vision and feelings feels open.
yeah. And okay, so we've got now to you jumping over to Bangalore. I remember coming to the airport with a little sign along with Sami saying "Welcome to Bangalore." I think it was as simple as
Yeah.
that. It wasn't much more.
No, yeah, welcome to Bangalore. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was nice. I remember we all drove back together and had a lunch together as well. So there are loads of stories to tell, but what are two, three of your memories of your time at Jigsaw? Like what stands out? What do you remember when you think about that time together?
Okay, I'll start with the serious stuff first. I
Okay.
think my journey with Jigsaw and the fondest memory I have is I've always been a learner. And in my mind, learning happens in certain ways. And when I joined Jigsaw, I was like, okay, Rashid's a business coach. I know how to do education. Cool, we can do something together. And I was like, maybe down the line I will go to do an MBA or go to business school to learn about business if it interests me. But I think the best memory was just learning with you and from you because at that point I wasn't so into coaching. I knew the basics of entrepreneurship. And so the most fond memory was how we were able to do a gradual release of responsibility, which was, you
So wondering
coaching me
how
on
long
how
into
to.
this podcast you would say that, use that term. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, it was, you can learn in such cool ways, and upskilling team members isn't as complicated as we make it out to be. If so, for me, it was so fun to learn how to execute design thinking in this context, how to coach early stage startups. I didn't read a book or get any coaching at that stage. I just sort of shadowed you, debriefed with you, went and read a little bit, then and practice. You let me just practice my own style and built it. And I think that is my fondest learning memory, is how much I could grow just by jumping in, figuring it out. So that was the serious one. The second one is it's like a jigsaw of many small memories, which is when we were still in person, everything that you have to do to give your clients a good experience. Getting coffee, cleaning the room, buying post-its, getting printouts, all of the unsexy work how we call it, is so actually meaningful when your clients have a great experience and stick with you and make this community. So for me, just doing all of that to have the people that we have and had I think it's just always people with Jigsaw. When I think back, it's our clients were amazing. I learned from them almost every day. Everything that we did with them, for them, was amazing. And there are also so many of them are such good friends of mine. So
yeah. I feel like, when you talked about the in-person stuff, the two things that it made me think about is how I remember one day you created a new line of work that I call whiteboard design, because we used to do stuff on whiteboards, and then you spent so much time basically telling me how my whiteboards look like crap when I finish a session. So at the start of
they
a
didn't
session,
look like crap.
mapped out
They didn't make
agenda.
sense. It was like, I will write something which is a mix of gibberish and Rashid's thoughts. And I'm just like, Rash, that makes no sense. It's arrows and alphabets.
Yeah. It was pretty bad. And then you started designing the whiteboard so that when people walked into the session, they saw this beautiful whiteboard with the agenda, and there was color-coded stuff going on. And then I had to tick stuff off as I went. And then I had a little box for grades. I remember stuff like that. That definitely sticks out. And I think you coming every Tuesday and Thursday, taking an auto or a cab to my place to take the car to drive like an hour to go run the sessions. That's what I think of when you say.
And do you remember how excited I was to drive on my own?
Yes, you were very excited. This is very important for everybody to listen, that when people go from Bombay to Bangalore, they come and belittle all our traffic situations and problems. And they're just like, oh, it's just a 7-kilometer 1-hour drive. That's totally cool. It'll be amazing.
Then I got a speeding ticket, and I cannot believe I got a speeding ticket in Bangalore.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Cool. Okay, so I'm sure the memories about Jigsaw will keep coming through and sprinkling themselves through this conversation, but we can perhaps move on a little bit to, I know towards I was going to say end of your time, but in my head, your time, there's a comma. It's not a full stop with your time at Jigsaw. I'll figure out how to coach you to come back to Bangalore at some point. That's my big challenge, right? So, but towards the end of your first stint with Jigsaw, you started getting a bit into coaching and doing it formally, right? Not just shadowing and learning and stuff, but doing it formally. Can you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to formally go deep into the coaching space and what that journey was like?
I think there are multiple factors. To me, I was very clear. I think, in retrospect, I feel like I was very clear that in my 20s, I wanted to explore as many things as I could, because I went to law school and I still didn't have the normal law school profile. I did a bunch of things in law school that were not always connected to law. Then I shifted to social impact and teaching, and so I didn't have the profile that a law graduate has, and I was very clear that I wanted, when I made that move, as uncomfortable as it was, because I was like, why? It doesn't make sense. My story, I know I kept telling you, my story doesn't make sense, Raj. I don't know how to introduce myself, and why would people take me seriously? But then I started through Jigsaw slowly owning the generalist, being a generalist, having a range of interests and expertise. I started owning that slowly but surely, like you would say. And for me, I was very clear that I didn't want to make a commitment and go super deep just yet. So through Jigsaw, I was sort of, easing into coaching, seeing what that feels like. Who do I want to coach? What do I want to coach around? What type of coach do I want to be? Always like, I think that I still have that a bit of confusion. Like, what is my role as an educator? What is my role as a coach? So there was a lot of exploration, and sometimes it didn't make sense. Sometimes it made a lot of sense. So that's been my journey for anybody who is a generalist or has multiple interests and wears multiple hats. And then I really fell in love with coaching, just because over the 3 years, being able to see people shift just by holding space, showing them a little bit of direction, and just holding space for them to show up and be themselves and be awesome. I fell in love with it. And then I was like, you know what? I think this is my thing. I should do it more. Then I to partly overcome the imposter syndrome, and partly because I was curious about what else is out there, I did a coaching certification to explore what is really this world of coaching that I've been doing without really knowing if I'm doing it right, like most coaches. So yeah.
And I remember the coaching certification was pretty thorough and rigorous. There was a lot of work that you needed to do to actually get that certification, go deep with it. So can you give us a snippet into, I guess, two things? One, what are the things that the certification involved? Like, what did you have to do? And two, when you came out the other side with the certification, had something shifted for you? What was the big sort of win or shift or change for you after that program?
So what I learned was that coaching is a very unregulated industry, which is a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. It depends on which part of the spectrum you operate from and what your values are. For me, it was very rigorous. So when I deconstructed the world of the certification, I understood that ICF, the International Coaching Federation, is the international body that regulates this space, and you can opt in to being regulated by them. And then there are a bunch of other training providers who then ICF says, okay, you go and now train people to come to be certified by us. So I took on a training. So when at your first level, I think you do, I don't remember the hours, it's a year and a half ago, 60 hours of sort of contact time, which is you have a coach who teaches you how to coach, and then you do a lot of peer coaching. And how many hours? 25 hours of, I don't know the hours right now, but I'm just ballparking 60 hours of contact. So 3 months of like really intensive coach training. And then you have practice with peer coaching, and then you have to and then they sort of tell you, okay, you send in your mock coachings, you get evaluated, and then they give you a certification. And then you can opt in to say, I have my first 100 hours of coaching with clients, and then you can opt in to go to the International Coaching Federation and get your first level of ACC accreditation, which I haven't done because I really didn't find the need to do it, because I don't coach 100% all the time. And then there are different levels. So when you complete like 200 hours, and there's PCC, then there's MCC. So there are 3 levels of seniority almost. So I think what shifted to me really gave me more tools, for sure, of how to coach. And it was just it was a good space to be trained, to figure out, what are the nuances of it, what should you pay attention to. And what shifted for me was just like, it's you do you, if you have your principles in place, it's so much flexibility to coach the way you want to coach.
Yeah, I guess that applies to so many different fields, right? You learn the principles, you learn the sort of values, and then the more equipped you are with those principles, the more fun you can have with them, the more you can play around. You said also you learned a bunch of tools. So I am curious, do you have a go-to tool, or the tool you feel that you keep going back to, or you've used the most often over the last couple of years of coaching?
The one thing that I learned that was new for me, which I did, but I don't think I did it as intentionally, was ABC, which is always be contracting. And just learning that it's not about your coaching, it's about your client, and you have to contract with them and agree with them at each point, where do they want to go, and you're just sort of holding them accountable to go there. So always be contracting. ABC is the one So I'm always reminding myself to, especially in the startup space, because sometimes we have the answer. And we, on how do I get from 10 to 100? Or how do I go from 0 to 1? We've seen examples, but we can tell you, but in coaching you won't. It's their journey to get to the answers that they want to get to and can get to. And then just like lots of stuff about listening, like listening at different levels. And I think that's the hardest one.
Yeah, I imagine it's one of those things, and I know we say this about pretty much everything now, but it's one of those things you wish you learned at school and college and paid attention to, the power of listening.
Yeah.
Because all through university, whenever people talk about great universities and educational experiences, they talk about them putting you in situations where you can express yourself and put yourself in a model UN and learn and do a math Olympiad and stuff.
Yeah.
There's no space to showcase how well you listen, how well you understand stuff, which makes me think like something's missing in that space straight away, right? Because we're not growing up to be good listeners, we're growing up to be good speakers. And then nobody's listening, so it's kind of pointless.
It's really, and that shifted for me. And then I started understanding, personally for me, like how bad a listen. I thought I could listen to people and I was empathetic. And I was like, I'm a pretty shitty listener. When you learn and you experience a coach holding the presence for you and that they're listening with all their body, it's a completely different experience. And nobody does that. But very few people do it in our everyday life.
I'm very scared because if you're saying you're a shitty listener, and I feel like if you're a 10, I used to think that you're a 10 on 10 and I'm a 3 on 10 of that. And now you're telling me you're a 3 on 10. So
I think you're a good listener.
Yeah, okay, sure. Cool.
But we are in a listening, I think, epidemic, if you would say. I think that none of us are listening. And it's scary. So...
Okay, let's try not to take this conversation down this morbid, depressing route. I think now, if I've got it right, you said that there's a renewed focus on something that I haven't ever heard of before you mentioned it, which is the inner development goals. And I think that's linked to the coaching stuff that you're doing. So can you tell us a little bit about, and to put it crassly, what the hell are inner development goals?
Oh, I'm so excited. It's my latest, what is a nice word for this? Addiction, but not addiction. It's something.
Obsession.
Something I'm obsessed with.
Positive word for obsession. Your muse.
My muse. Okay. So I was very deeply, because I went to law school and like since high school, like you said, Model United Nations, we were all, those cool kids doing all of these cool things and very closely related to the Millennial Development Goals and then the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And for some reason, I always was like, yeah, we have to do this. And I was very committed to these goals because I was like, yeah, okay, now we all have common goals so that we can work towards and actually keep the planet livable and keep our lives livable. But there was always something missing because at a coach and educator level, okay, there are these big goals that perhaps companies are working with, governments are working with, but what are we doing as people for these goals? It just always felt too big to pursue. And now it's a conversation mostly happening in Europe. There's an understanding that just those big macro goals and targets are not enough. And if we want to shift things in the world, each one of us individually and collectively need to shift the way we operate. And so the hypothesis that's now backed by research and science is that, number one, adults have an ability to shift and build skills and grow, so the growth mindset one, and that there are these set of skills that the Inner Development Goals is like a nonprofit based out of the Scandinavian countries mostly, that they're now propagating that there are 5 categories of skills. And 23 skills that we need to build and shift so that we can thrive in this complex world and we can actually be change makers and do something meaningful for our lives and for the world.
Okay, so is my understanding so far correct that we've got these unified sustainable development goals?
Yeah.
But the premise is we need to be change makers to make that stuff reality.
Yeah,
So to be change makers, we need to have inner development goals so that we can transform into change makers that can make this change possible. Is my
that's
understanding
correct.
correct? Or have I
See,
missed
you're
something?
such a good listener with my Sharpie.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's clearly not working. We're not meeting any of these targets. I know we don't want to sound depressing, but that's just the truth. And something has to change. What got us here, Ash, like you say, will not get us there. And we live in extremely individualistic setups. And I think that's why Jigsaw is also so meaningful for me, is that we always push people to collaborate and be stronger together. We live in extremely individualistic setups in our head, and we don't really think that all of us need to shift. So just because I get an MBA and I have a business and I'm successful is not enough anymore. That we all have this obligation to grow through skills and mindsets, so that obviously we can make our lives better, but also the lives around us. And it's no longer an option the way I see it. And I feel like I said very passionately about this. It's not an option for you to not have these skills.
Got it. And so, can you give us a flavor of what these skills are? So, I know you mentioned 5 categories, 23. You don't have to give us the laundry list at all, but like at a high level, what type of stuff are we talking about?
So, we're talking the first category is being. So, it's got skills of self-awareness. What's your inner compass? The assumption again is that each of us really find, and what we do at Jigsaw is find our sort of inner compass and our mission. Then collectively we'll be able to be more meaningful for each other and for the planet. So there's a bunch of skills under being, which are very inward focused. There's collaboration. So what are the skills of collaboration you need? So there's co-creation, etc. under there. It's very actually a lot of stuff that we do at Jigsaw already. So, and the funny part about these skills, the funny part about this is, all of us look at different leadership matrix and competencies and stuff. It's nothing. It's not rocket science. They've just done research and asked thousands of people what it is, and they've just consolidated it. And the others are thinking skills, acting skills. So they're really not new skills, except what I really like is that they've put the presence, self-awareness, inner compass, trust, like those skills that we don't talk about, those are there, which I love.
And so how are you, with what you're currently doing, how are you involved in this process or towards this mission of the inner development goals? How are you connected with it? Or is it just something you're passionate about on the side?
What we're doing now at work is trying to move a little bit towards not just like the business model canvas and like business modeling, but thinking more about responsible entrepreneurship, impact business models. So bringing, like, there shouldn't be a disconnect. So you go into a company and they have a business model, and then they have, for CSR purposes, sustainable development goals, but they don't come together. So we're trying to get early stage entrepreneurs as students, college students, PhD students, to start thinking differently about business. That's the integration for sustainability, like pushing people to create loops, not just with profit, but with impact and with the sustainable development goals. And the inner development goal, again, is a part of when we educate and we coach, it's anchoring them to be like, focus on this, like what's important to you, what can you do while you are running a business, because an entrepreneur grows so much through the business and you build skills whether you know it or not. So it's just bringing that something that is in the periphery into focus for the entrepreneurs. That's it.
Got it. It's making it central as part of this entire business thing, as opposed to here's an extracurricular activity you've got to do on the side. Right? Okay, wow, that's really powerful.
And I think self-starters are very receptive to this. We think that everybody cares about profit and they want to get their VC funding and they want to get their first round of funding, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they do. But they have this capacity to expand. Like the other day, I had a founder on stage giving a pitch, and in the end, she said, obviously, it was the call to action for her company. And then she said, join me on my growth journey because I'm here to transform as a person, it had nothing to do. She's like some pharma company product. It's amazing, right? Like you can see that people pick it up because they know it's important.
Do you ever see yourself currently, do you ever see yourself getting away from the startup space? And the reason I ask that is because you sound really you continue to sound really inspired by being part of this ecosystem and seeing these
Yeah.
change makers and being a part of their journey up front. But I also know for you personally, it was a really, really difficult, heart-wrenching decision to move on from teaching the kids you were working with as part of Teach for India. And at that time, I don't think you could see yourself outside of that space. So
No.
can you tell me a little bit about now can you see yourself beyond this space, or do you feel like you're always going to stay within the space in some form or another?
Always is a big commitment. Yeah, no, I'm joking. I genuinely have learned in the last, my belief is that self-starters, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs starting out are sort of my focus to create impact. They always will be. Now, which age they come in is the shift I've made. Like, yeah, they can be kids, and I still work with kids. I'm sure they can be kids as well. But it's so incredibly powerful if you catch them early, whether it's they're starting off and getting their first team member. It's easier to create impact and create through them and also impact them at that stage. And I find that it's a bit harder for me personally at a level of corporates and big companies. And I find it feel a bit lost with my impact and my mission there. So as far as I can see in the future, I think yes, it's my playground, because there's so much room to mold and play and expand. So good job, Rashid, getting me here.
Getting you hooked. I do want to go back in that time machine. Like we said, we won't keep it linear. So we touched on how you were teaching kids as part of Teach for India. And I know it was a little bit heart-wrenching for you to sort of move on and accept that that might not be your form of giving and creating impact. The question I'm curious about, or the part I'm curious about, is what from that experience do you think you bring to your coaching, facilitation, the impact you're creating now? Do you carry anything that you learned or took away from there that holds you in good stead over here? Or is it just two different planets, therefore a different mindset, different skill set?
No, I think I always carry all of my experiences and with me, and I build on them. That's what I learned after a lot of coaching with you and a lot of coaching externally and a lot of introspection, that every experience we have is not, it's layered. You can layer it up and you can transfer it. The skills, and I think my biggest learning moving for the second time so I moved from law to social impact and teaching, and then I moved from teaching kids to in the startup space. And the second time I did it, my most profound learning, and that's something I share with everyone. Your skills are transferable. So if you know how to teach kids, yes, you have to make, you can't, I mean, I know I made this mistake of treating adults as like kids. That was interesting. But it gives you the same set of skills. You have to tweak things and you have to put it in a different context, but the skills remain the same. It's the skills of educational design, patience, listening, facilitation. It's the same. And so for me, it was a starting point of me realizing how much I love to teach. And so I really hold it very close. It was also a starting point of learning mobilization skills, like how do you build a community? How do you bring people together in really difficult settings? And so for me to create communities never felt as, because my experience was so extreme and so hard. Then it started feeling easier with adults and in a more for-profit setup. So for me, the headline was always your experiences and skills are transferable. If you can see it and you can design it smartly and be patient, they will flourish in different settings.
Another piece I'm curious about with this is you talked a little bit about you as a teacher, educator, and a coach. And lines between those can get blurred very, very easily. Have you, like, do you have to be conscious about the fact, or are you aware of the fact of when you need to be a teacher, when you need to be a coach, or do you sort of, now is it natural that you know how to flow from one to the other? Where are you with that? Because I imagine that's a little bit challenging as well.
Yeah. And we spoke about it earlier, right? Like sometimes you have the answer. But what coach training taught me, outside of all of the amazing stuff, was it doesn't matter if you have the answer. If it doesn't come from your client and it's not relevant to your client, It doesn't matter. And so, like I said, ABC, which was always be contracting. If in a conversation I could take permission and be like, hey, can I step out of my coaching hat and share
Right.
some insights with you? So I always take permission with adults, mostly if I have an answer. So I'm very conscious now that I don't want to be an educator and coach together, because I see that it's very different roles and it feels very different for clients. It's completely different spaces. So usually I try not to mix them up, but if I do, I usually create very
Get the
strict
permission.
boundaries. Yeah.
I also want to talk a little bit about the time between, I guess, your Jigsaw comma and starting out with the university, right, in Munich. There was a time where I think what you were doing at that time was freelancing as a coach.
Yeah.
And we at Jigsaw we have a lot of freelancers, coaches, etc. But I want to know very personally from your experience, what did you enjoy about that part of the experience of being a freelancer as a coach? And which bits did you just not enjoy as a freelancer, which led you to go, you know what, I want to be part of an ecosystem and get the role that you are playing now?
I saw the Happier Business trailer today, so I'm trying to make this connection. I think so when I started freelancing, at that point, I already had clarity on the types of clients I want to work with. And I was very clear. I was an academic coach, which I was working very closely with students in school, trying to teach them how to learn. So that wasn't really a coach, an academic mentor. And I liked doing that because I think working with teenagers and kids just fills me up. And it's something that not a lot of people do. So that was something I was very clear I wanted to continue to do. And then I also was clear that I wanted to work with clients who are invested in coaching. I didn't want to get into getting people to buy into coaching. So
right.
I by the time I had sort of my Jigsaw space had a lot of clarity. So what worked for me was being able to choose the clients that I wanted to work with. So that brought a lot of ease. And just the freedom, like I was working on a different continent, I was moving countries, I was working 6 hours a day, but I could tweak it. There was just so much flexibility, and I needed that at that point because there was different time zones and a lot of. Those were the two big things that I really enjoyed, but it was hard because moving from seeing Rashid and the team. And Ayush back then, and seeing you guys every day, 6 days a week, to then not having a team to brainstorm and share, and that was hard. That was very hard. I really missed that. So then I was like, I think I need a team. I need a tribe. It's important to me, and that's when I started to say, okay, I will do this, but I will also work part-time.
Yeah, no, I can relate so much to this. I feel the team bit is the most shocking part of when you start out and you start out solo. Because I remember when I left Accenture to coming back solo, it took all the willpower, mental strength, all of those things just to make sure you got through the day by yourself. And sometimes while you're building stuff, you're not interacting with people because you tend to shut yourself off and say, I'll figure this all out on paper. And then you're just not, you're by yourself. That is very hard. So I can imagine for you as well, right? Like it's like a big shift because you are, I know people keep saying that people persons, but you are a people person, like very, very clearly, right? Like that's where you get
at
your
work.
energy. I think. Yes, at work. That's where you get your energy. And so, that must have been hard. So is that what tipped you into getting it? Like, I want to be part of a team again. Was that the tipping point, or was there something else?
It was just also the opportunity because I was around TU, Technical University of Munich, and you hear a lot about Munich being, at least in Germany, it's quite, the ecosystem for the startups is really out there, and it's very big, and it's hard to miss. So it was definitely, I think subconsciously I was like, I don't want to be working alone endlessly. Like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. But it was also for me, obviously, because I'd moved to Germany, it was important. I didn't know if I wanted to go through the whole process just yet of setting up a freelance practice in Germany. It's a lot of paperwork, and I'd already done a lot of paperwork to be married. So for me, it would be good to have a job in Germany and sort of get started here with my income. So that's obviously a thing when you're moving countries, right? Like till I'm now at a place where I can now start considering having my own freelance practice. That was a big factor, moving countries for me at that point. Yeah.
I feel like we've hit the major parts of the timeline. Have I missed any
Wait,
part of the timeline we
we've
should be
not
discussing?
spoken about we've not spoken about, there's so many things at Jigsaw.
No, I know there are like 3,000 things we can talk about. I'm just trying to make sure like we hit like the important 20%.
I think maybe for our community, from my journey of growing Jigsaw with you, what maybe my top two learnings that I take away as someone who wasn't really the founder but was a part of the startup team.
This is
I think
I'm gonna only invite guests like you from now on because then I don't even have to ask the questions. You
I
can
was
just be
asking
like, here's the question you need to be asking me. And
because
here's my
I'm so
answer.
used to the
This is
roles
great.
being
I can just watch.
reversed. Yeah, because I've always been the one interviewing
Yeah,
Raj
great.
with.
Go for it. Yeah, no, this is great. Go for it.
Great, my question. Okay, yes. So for our community, the first thing was please don't do it alone. I don't know why we want to be self-sacrificing martyrs that think that we should be doing this alone and go through the pain. It doesn't have to be painful. We've seen it with all of our community members. When they have a community or when they have like one other person, it makes such a big difference for their mental health, for the business. It's happier. It's happier. It's easier, to share the experience with other people. And I think with the two of us, because it was just the two of us till we had Chandna for a long time, I didn't feel like it wasn't enough. It was enough. We always shifted gears. We did things. We had fun together. Makes a big difference to have one other person or more than one person, to have a close knit team. And the second one was in the startup space. Yes, it's good to have expertise, and this is just my personal take. It's good to have expertise and be really good at what you do and have like really great technical hard skills, but don't undermine the importance of growing across different skills. So if you're working only with marketing, try sales, try customer experience, or if you're not doing accounting, give it a shot for 3 months. I feel that we learn a lot. I remember I did everything on the back end. My role, because you were the head coach then, was to make sure that we're at a place where we could maximize your coaching hours. And I love doing that because I was like, oh, this is how business is set up. Like, this is how we set up structures in the back end to optimize time for a service business. Do everything if in the startup space, if you can, do everything and then see don't be picky in the beginning. I loved doing that. So that was my big share.
What's the next question I should be asking you?
I'll chat it to you.
I feel like you've got it down. That was a great question. And also, just a quick side note is we're still using your accounting templates your accounting tracker in a different form. Like, I think the fundamentals are still what you built, which is kind of crazy and alludes to what you were talking about, because I don't think, and I think you would admit it, I don't think accounting excels are really your forte out of all of the things you're amazing at. And yet you built an accounting system for a startup, right? Which is kind of crazy that you sort of got involved with all of these types of things.
I mean,
What
the
are
first
all the
principles
crazy
are the
things you got
same.
involved with? Yeah.
I did everything. The printing out
okay.
one does not link to my sustainable development goals.
Yeah.
I remember trying to carry
pretty bad.
printed out papers, and Rasha was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
And me and my addiction with pizza for our workshops. Yeah. That was my delight in our client experience.
Yeah, I remember having many a battle, being like, can't we just give people like sandwiches? Why do we have to get them fancy pizza? But you were right. I remember we did that young entrepreneur workshop, and the highlight, everybody were asking them, what was your big takeaway? They were just like, the pizza was amazing.
Brick oven pizza.
Part. Yeah,
This is not a sponsored podcast. This is just Kriti's favorite pizza place
that
in
is true.
Bangalore.
Um, cool. We have this we have a little Jaldi with Jigsaw segment
Okay.
where I normally ask rapid fire questions, but I thought we did this once with Ani. So here's what we did. Uh, he suggested that we do a volley of questions. So I asked one, he asked one. So why don't we
Sick.
do like the same thing, right?
Sounds
And
like
rapid
Adi.
fire questions, which means the questions can be deep and all of that if we want it to be, but the
But
answers have to be quick and snappy.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I will get us started with Jaldi with Jigsaw. So my first question to you is,
First of all, 1
um,
second. I have to say
oh,
that I love Jaldi with Jigsaw because of your addiction. I will not say obsession with Shah Rukh Khan and Bollywood. And we've tried this
yeah,
so many times doing the rapid fire. No, what did we do?
yeah.
No.
We're not
The
allowed to
rapid
call it
fire.
this. Won't
Sorry.
we like be sued?
Um,
You're the lawyer. You should know this.
no, we just tried to call it that. And I love that it's Jaldi with Jigsaw.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so here is your first question. Your first
Okay.
question is, um, what is the most frustrating part of being a coach?
People not listening to themselves.
Oh, that was so strong. I thought you were going to say people not listening to you,
I was gonna
and
say
then you
people.
changed the entire game.
I was gonna say people, but I was like, no.
Okay, that's good. Okay, you can ask
Okay, my
now.
question. I have a two-part Jaldi with Jigsaw question. Are you happy?
I'm so happy. I'm very, very thrilled about everything. But this is your two-part question. What is the
So my
second
second
part?
part question is, what makes Rashid happy?
What makes me happy? Very simple things. I don't think I need major things to make me happy. I am very happy that uh, we're doing like this home renovation project, and so I'm very happy that I'm getting to do that with Tarani, because we didn't get to like build our home together. So that's something that makes me really happy. I'm really happy that I enjoy going to work every day with the people I work with, so that's always fun. So I'm happy. I'm happy because I have 25 board games in my cupboard right now and I can play any of them this evening and over the weekend. So yeah, very simple things make me happy. I don't think I need too much to be happy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true of you. I'm sure there is a new
Wow,
Shah Rukh
Jesus,
Khan movie
these
you can
questions are
watch.
very scary. No, man, I watched Jawan and I was like, might need a break for a bit. Okay, what is your favorite German word and what does it mean?
Favorite, but the most
Yeah.
controversial one, Schatz. It means treasure, and so in Germany you call your partner Schatz. And the funny part is, it sounds so unlike an endearing term, but you try to make it endearing.
Oh, that's so
Hi,
sweet.
Schatz. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, right. Okay. Like that's Hi Jan or something over here.
Yeah, like hi
Yeah.
Jan, the baby, but it's called treasure, and in German, Germans have a reputation of sounding very tough, but I think it's a
Yeah.
sweet word.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, right? If you're called it all day, every day, you have to. Okay.
It's my
Next
question.
question.
All right, what is a jargon in the startup business coaching space right now that really annoys you?
I think it's always been the same. I just, people just talking about their bandwidth drives me crazy. Because it's just what is your like how much time do you have and how much energy do you have. You don't have to give it this corporate jargon word that makes it sound more complicated than it is, and that continues to be a thing that people just throw around everywhere. It's just your time and energy. Just say time and energy.
Yeah,
It drives me mad. It always
yeah,
drove me mad even when I was
yeah,
at like a corporate. I am
yeah,
like physically getting
yeah.
mad about it right now,
Repulsed.
so
This is
yeah.
true because I remember I stopped using bandwidth when we started working together, and
Yeah,
we
bandwidth.
would say stuff like, "Yeah, I'm caught up. I'm tired. Don't have space for this." I never
Yeah.
used, like you would say bandwidth, and Rashid would just like,
Yeah, don't like it. Don't like it.
yeah.
Okay, what is the favorite session you ever ran while at Jigsaw, or the favorite type of thing we did? when you were at Jigsaw?
I have so many. This is so hard.
Just pick one now.
No. I think a very special one was we did the all-nighter, and I really hate doing all-nighters because I like to sleep at 11. But it was back then we were a very close-knit community. We met every weekend. So we were already very close. But it was a fun experience to design, and then we played games, we did deep reflection. Some of us did a sleepover. Then we met for dosa and filter coffee the next morning, which I miss so terribly. I mean,
yeah, that's a
I
good
think
one.
it's special because what it told us, and I remember, was it's not just about doing great workshops. It's about creating experiences where people can collaborate and share and reflect, and pizza and filter coffee is a bonus.
Yeah, that was a good one. And there's something magical about the night, right? So it was really.
What are you most looking forward to in 2024?
I think I want to. I mean, one of the things I'm always looking forward to is travel in any form with Tarani. So that I look forward to. I think there are the starters of a plan to go back to New Zealand and Australia, but with her this time, that are just coming. Like the inception has happened, and we might be thinking about it. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's going
to try and make that happen. And yeah, there's always a part of me that's excited about things with Jigsaw. So I'm excited because I think we'll be at 1,000 members next year, which is really exciting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to celebrating that number with the team and with everybody who's been involved. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And I refuse to answer the next question until you make a commitment on a live podcast that you're going to visit me.
What, next year? Does it have to be next year?
Close to Europe. Transition in Europe, I will come see you. But it's absolutely
cool.
great. So I said long distance friends because I feel like I haven't seen you, from going to seeing you every day to not seeing you for such a long time it's great.
Yeah. And I'm a pretty rubbish long distance friend. Let's face it. Right?
You are absolutely rubbish.
Yeah.
And because of you, I've become rubbish, which is not cool. So I have to do better.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I make that commitment. We'll meet each other. Okay. Next question from me is what was maybe is my most annoying habit and the most annoying thing you had to deal with while working together with me?
I love the adjective annoying. I think it's the always being calm. I can see it on your face that you're not calm, like today, but you just be calm. I'm like, gosh, just be angry. Like you're irritated, but you're still calm. It's just this dichotomy is very hard to deal with.
I remember one of our like quarterly check-ins when you were giving me feedback, and your feedback was, "Can you stop being a robot, please?" And I remember that one stuck with me because you were like, you have to feel and you have to tell me you're feeling stuff. Otherwise, it's like kind of hard to work together.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, why don't we do one more question each way?
Yeah. Okay. So my question is, it doesn't have to be work related, right?
Be literally anything.
What is a show that you started watching and stopped watching? So then I don't watch that show.
Oh yeah, I started one. Oh man, I can't even remember the name. It was on Amazon. It was about the race for the moon between the US and USSR. And it started out amazing. Like the first 3 episodes were so good. And then after that, it was one of the most boring shows I've ever watched. Like it went from like unbelievable to the most disappointing thing like 4 episodes in, and I stopped watching it. So please don't watch whatever that
I don't have Amazon. I don't watch anything on Amazon. So okay, cool.
Okay,
thanks.
Okay. Okay, final question, and if you can do this jaldi, that'll be pretty incredible. Let's say you were coaching an entrepreneur who is absolutely on the edge of giving up. Okay, if you could ask them one question to get them back and say, okay, let's keep going, what would your question be?
Can I ask a clarifying question? How long has this entrepreneur been an entrepreneur?
Oh my God. This person has been an entrepreneur for 2.5 years.
Okay. My question would be, can you walk me through what life would be if you quit?
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. That's good.
And my assumption is that, and this is my experience with entrepreneurs, is there's always a bug. And when they see what it's like without it and they really think it through and feel it through, they're like, oh no, this is more worth
I'll
it
deal
than
with
the
it.
other.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
everybody's
cool.
journey
That's a
different.
great question. That is amazing. Okay, cool. Let's call the Jaldi with Jigsaw. I feel like that it was very Jaldi-ish with Jigsaw.
But I
Also
have to show like my props for this is our Jigsaw. This is like, for me, I was like, oh, I'm going for something Jigsaw. So I need to have a marker and I need to have post-its because everything with Jigsaw in my association is post-its and markers.
Yeah. Now we have them in digital format because it's more sustainable and scalable.
Yes.
But yes, I also have a bag of post-its from the time you left. That entire
Yes, of
bag
course.
is still there with post-its. Okay, this was great. I have, I guess, one final question before we wrap up, which is, what's next for you? What are you going to be up to over the next 12 months? Or what are you hoping to sort of achieve or do, whatever, right? For the next year, what's next for Kriti?
I think personally, I really want to focus more on life and not. I'm always hyper focused on learning and work and family. So I want to focus more on life, and that's like having different experiences, whether it's through travel or through friends. That's going to be my focus next year, and not just responsibility. And then we'll see where we end up. And professionally, no, just like I said, it's I want to find a little more focus. So I'm sort of want to stay in the generalist space, but sort of go deeper in some aspects of work. So I'm really looking forward to upskilling and deepening my voice and my experience in those spaces.
Cool. Well, all the best.
That was a very Miss India answer, I feel.
You want like a retake? We can be like Miss India answer and actual
I'll
answer.
call you. I'll call you in the
it.
end of the year after a few beers and talk to you about.
Oh yeah, we have to do that. That's one of the things did we do it last year?
No, we missed it. But that was on me.
We missed it.
It was the first time we missed it in 5 years.
Yeah. So this is for people listening. We used to for 5 years in a row. Was it 5? Maybe about 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
We would meet every January 1st.
Yeah.
And do a detailed review of the year and a reflection of the year and what we want to accomplish in the year ahead. And it like very rarely had stuff to do with work, right? It was a lot of personal stuff, and that was such an amazing exercise every year. So we have to do it again this year.
Yeah, we'll do it this year, and we'll loop in the old party with Sam and Nikhil, and hopefully they will join.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Thank you for having me on BYOB.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's great to be here.
All right.
Miss you guys, everybody in the community who knows me and
So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We're Jigsaw Thinking, home of the self-starters. If you're interested in being your own boss, head to jigsawthinking.com or drop us a DM at Jigsaw Thinking on Instagram.